Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad to see you for today's Women's Giving Circle on the bright side. The Women's Giving Circle is part of the Community Giving Foundation, and we focus on making sure that we can empower, connect, and inspire activities that help support women and children throughout our local communities. And so, on the bright side was an side effect or a beautiful silver lining of the pandemic that was created to really round up women throughout our area to talk about things that are really on the bright side. How can we uplift and elevate activities, information, connection points that we're seeing in our day to day, and also just to give you a break from your day and enjoy the company of each other. We do have the goal of creating a comfortable setting where we can come together. You can engage as much or as little as you want. Just to lay a little ground rules on that, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love for you to participate verbally. But if you feel more comfortable, we are also monitoring the chat. And we would ask that throughout the program, if you have an idea, even a piece of information, a little tip, trick, nugget to share, put it in the chat. We do capture that, and we hope to send that out to our membership or just to inform those that are participating today of what's tied to our topic areas, what is available in the community. So we'd love to hear from you. And ongoing, if you have ideas or ahas as you walk away from today's event or another, always feel free to share. We'd love to stay connected and create the network around this. It's been fun. This is sort of been reignited this year, and this is our third one, and we're having a lot of fun with it. That being said, as we are talking today, and you're hearing today's topic or have planned to attend, if you have an idea for us, our committee is actively looking for ways to make sure that we bring to you things that really make you think, well, that's on the bright side. I now know. I'm in the know of what's happening, a new topic area, how to stay connected, and we want to continue to share those opportunities with you. So that being said, now that I feel like I've talked enough to allow a few more people to join, again, welcome to the Women's Giving Circle on the bright side. My name is Bree Affelbaum-Kula. I am the current vice chair of the Women's Giving Circle, and I am joined by a committee of lovely ladies, Ellen, Colleen, and Stacy, who have helped put together on the bright side, as well as we're part of a bigger steering committee that makes sure that we can coordinate efforts, everything from events like this to community outreach programs to fundraisers. And then ultimately our goal is to raise funds so that we can support organizations that are helping women and children throughout the Valley. Our main mantra here is we want to empower, connect, and inspire. And so we hope today's event will do just that. So before we get started, let me give you the lineup so you know what to expect and how you can engage with us. We do hope to create this as like a Zoom living room. Please be a part of it any way you feel comfortable. Today we will be hearing about the rich and diverse cultural impacts of cuisine and entrepreneurship in our valley. And we'll be hearing from two main entrepreneurs. We have Stacy Napoli and Amber Amato de Guerrero. And we will also be hearing from Kendi Alvarez on an upcoming international festival planned for this fall, as well as talk about some other activities that are building community through joining together around food and culture and different ideas that really help to make sure our area is rich in diverse conversation, and community building is the key. So without further ado, I promised Stacy that I was actually going to keep her introduction fairly short, because part of the introduction is really telling your story, and I really am looking forward to hearing our stories today of where Stacy and Amber started and where they are now, and how that has really brought together our community surrounding themselves through food, entrepreneurship, and all things that really, to me, say it's on the bright side. Our community is growing and thriving. So Stacy, please take it away and tell us more about what you've been involved with and what you would like to highlight today.
Well, thank you. And thank you everyone for having me today. It's quite an honor. So first, I just want to say, I'm Stacy Napoli. I'm with Isabella's restaurant. We also have Bella's Pizza, and we also have, well, we did have the Garden Terrace in Ellisburg, but now we leased that building out. Um, there's also a new, there's the first picture that was actually right after we were married, which started our business back in 1995. We got married in 1998, and it's been every year since then in the restaurant business. I also worked at a bank during the day, but this is at the Garden Terrace, and my husband never cooked. He came from a background of an Italian family. Same with myself, and I grew up in the coal region. So in the coal region, you know, as everybody knows, we're all about cooking food from Italian to Polish to Ukrainian food, whichever it is. So in our life, basically, both of our families have truly based, I think, our life around food, whether it be at our homes, whether it be in our business, whatever. And we've met so many wonderful people, and, you know, throughout this 30 years almost that we're going on. And, you know, we've switched things up a little bit. This here was formerly a Cox restaurant in Ellisburg by Knoebels, and it had a big bar in it, dining room, catering. We still do the catering and all that. We just do more on-site catering, or I'm sorry, off-site catering, as our restaurant in Selinsgrove doesn't hold as many as what, you know, the coal region weddings, I'm going to say, usually have, like 300-400 people. So we do a lot of the off-site catering for that. So I'm trying to think, it was probably 2009, we moved down to Selinsgrove with our business. We actually have been living here, but right down the street from my house, there was a little business there. It was, I don't know if anybody was familiar with that, but it was called Nanny Tutu's. And Nanny Tutu's was a little ice cream place there. It was adorable. And the owner, they were also working another job. So they were getting ready to sell. They wanted to sell the building. It was just a lot for them. So I was working at the bank in Danville, and my husband came home and said to me, "Oh, I have news for you." And I said, "What is that?" And he said, "We just bought another business." I said, "Oh, we did." And he said, "Yeah, and you're going to work it." And that was when my daughter was actually going into kindergarten. So we opened in January of 2009, and my daughter was starting school, and my son was in third grade. So I would put them on the bus, go to work. After school, I would pick them up, bring them to the pizza shop, and we would be there all night until we closed at 9. They would literally do their homework at the tables and fall asleep, you know, in the pizza shop that we had, Rocco's Pizza. And then about 2 years after that, he came back again and said, "Guess what?" And I said, What's that?" And he says, "I bought another business." I said, "Oh, geez, I'm not sure how this is going to work." But so he's down in Selinsgrove location, and he's there most, like, every single day. I was there for a few months, but the pizza shop, the people that we had hired there were mostly all younger kids in high school and first year of college. And honestly, they just became my family. I still to this day have many relationships with each and every one of them, even though they're married, they have children, they're all grown up now, working in, you know, their big kid jobs. And I just thought that was really special. And you know, right before COVID hit, we also sold Rocco's Pizza. So anybody who worked at Rocco's also went downtown to our other pizza shop location called Bella's Pizza, because I knew that I had to have a job for everyone there. So I brought everybody that stayed on board, that wasn't moving away, down to Bella's Pizza, which is next door to Isabella's in downtown Selinsgrove. And they all still work there. And again, that's a pizza shop next door to Isabella's. And then about April of this year, I decided I'm going to do something I really want to do, because for some reason, Isabella's doesn't open till 4, so I was bored. So what I did was, I'm opening up a women's clothing boutique now. So, and I'm sure we're going to have stuff in there like the charcuterie boards, wine bags, all that go together. And the shop is going to be called Ciao Bella, that kind of intermixes with the restaurants, Bella and Isabella's. But that is basically how that all happened. It's been quite some, different struggles, of course, during COVID, trying to raise a family, trying to be at sports activities. But, it's everybody in my family, is wonderful with it. As far as like this morning, we moved my daughter into school and we had somebody that, we needed help down at the restaurant. So she got off there and she went and worked, at the restaurant today with my husband, which, my son, he's going to be taken over for a couple of weeks while we're away. We're going to Europe for vacation and, to my in-laws home there. So, I mean, it's everybody in the family has to work it. That's what really makes our business. And we treat everybody who works there like they're one of our family. We have parties with them, Christmas parties and baby showers, whichever it is. Like, I mean, we spend a lot of hours together. So, the background of the food obviously is Italian. But we also do have, steaks or
I'm so sorry, Stacy. I don't mean to
American food
interrupt.
as well, any kind of seafood you can think of. Sure.
Oh,
Okay, that's the garden terrace. That was,
yes.
yes, that was, I was
You have such
19 or
fabulous
actually on
pictures.
that
I want
first
to
picture,
share
I was
them.
23.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So that was the first one. That
Mhm.
was back in 1995. But yes, and then I'm not sure if the next one comes up or
There we
not.
go. This is Bella's.
Yes, that's Bella's. And that's the girls on the side there were all my girls from Rocco's Pizza, which they were at prom, and my pizza man is also down there, which if you go to Selinsgrove, he's still there. So yes, I mean they're all, and they all still come, they all still send text messages, Christmas cards, whatever, to this day, back and forth we do. So that's what I mean. They were really like my family, and they still are. They were like I was raising them, and they were brothers and sisters to my own kids. They would help with homework. They would help, as we all know, the new math, the core math is different than when we were kids as math. So they were great for that to help, or biology classes or whatever. And then my son is on the other side. We have a concession stand up at the Selinsgrove Pool as well. Here, I also feel that it's extremely important to be involved in the community that you live in. You work in it, you grow in it, you live in it. The more that you are involved in it, then you can have a voice and say, or you're doing something for it. So I'm a big, I'm a big person to like my kids, my husband, but I definitely want my daughter to join in with the Women's Community Giving Foundation, and also different things throughout the Greater Susquehanna Valley Chamber of Commerce, transitions of PA. I just think that that's wonderful. And here I was being sworn in. I was the Rotary president this past year. I just passed the gavel not too long ago here, a couple weeks ago, but and that was quite an experience. I don't know if anybody is involved in their local Rotary, but it's something most people have no clue what they're actually doing, but they do so much in our community and around the world. We're also at the Wine and Art event down below there. That's the Rotary, but I was also on the board for the Wine and Art event that we did for the Snyder County Libraries. Again, another thing that we do food stuff with. We do a mini golf that we provide some food for the kids, food for the adults, beverages. Up top, that is when we won the Small Business of the Year award through the Greater Susquehanna Valley Chamber. And that's my husband with Bob Garrett. Same on the bottom, that's my husband and myself there. But I do feel just like being involved in this community giving foundation, the more that if you touch one life, and whether it be through food, through a personal relationship, whichever, you're actually going to meet a lot of personal, people as a personal relationship. But I think that community involvement that's your rent in life. That's the legacy that you want to leave. Like how you're involved shows your kids how to get involved, and it's all together. If we all work together, we get a lot more accomplished. That's for sure. And everybody has different ideas. Same with food, it's no matter what kind of food it is. We used to have some of the kids, in the pizza shop, they would be in the French class, or they had Latin, and they would bring in dishes so that we would be able to try each one before they did their, at the end of the year, they did this big day where it was the International Food Day. And I just think that was really great because, I mean, isn't that what we are? We're all diverse. So I think that's the best part of it. And everybody has, something good to add to our tables. And I think it's great. And women, especially, I mean, they are trying to balance so much in life, like their job, their house, their marriage, their kids, and it goes on and on and on. So, I mean, we have a lot going on in our worlds, that's for sure.
Stacy, I just have to jump in here and I have to ask you more about you have Isabella's picture here with your race car. Tell us about that.
Yes. We Sure. That's my daughter Isabella, and we named the restaurant after her. This is actually, we just did through the Rotary, a car show in downtown Selinsgrove,
Very
and we
cool.
sponsor this race car. So, another way that giving back, I think, is great for our community. There's a lot of people, they go to different events. So we have everything from Rotary to the racetrack, going on. And up top there, we do every year Cooking Men for the Evangelical Hospital. We go in as like the guest chefs there, and that's really important to me. My mother was 2 times she's had breast cancer, so for us, I think getting involved in any way possible with different things like that is number one. But and then down below, obviously, there is Isabella's restaurant in Selinsgrove, and top there on the left hand side, and then all the way over on the right, that's where my new women's boutique that I'm opening is going to be, and that's the Ciao Bella Boutique.
Stacy,
Yes.
we have a couple of comments in the chat.
Oh.
A comment and a question. Someone basically said they could not say it any better. We need to be involved in the community to bring our children and others into caring for their community. But at the same time, a question was asked, well, how do you balance all of this? You're an entrepreneur, volunteer, you've got your family. How do you keep that balance together?
Put them to work too. It all balances at the end of the day. Sometimes I think if we sit and we have to think about it, it would drive us crazy. But honestly, when you get up in the morning and you go and you can help somebody, or you move somebody, like the Agency on Aging, or different things, Haven Homes, going and getting involved in that. Not only is it balancing out that I need to be involved in the community, I'm doing something with my family. So there you have, I'm also with my husband. So we're doing something together. So it's showing, that as well. And it's also, it'll put, a lot of memories in their minds too. One day long after I'm gone, that this is just how we live life. This is how you're supposed to help each other, because it is hard. And that's the one great thing about this women's giving circle as well, is that we all, have these obstacles in life. And, when we talk to each other, we all see that, everybody does deal with this. So you're not alone in that. And, you can do it. And it's okay to ask if you need help. Like I said, we asked my daughter today, please, can you come down and help? And she did. Like, it's just same, like with my husband or my son, same thing. It's just like, that's kind of how you balance it. And you involve your family along with it. Not that they want to take over the restaurant business by any means, but they know that that's passion for our family. And also, well, they're going to eat dinner, so they have to come to the restaurant. So that's another, it all fits in together. We sit down even in the restaurant and have a dinner with our employees, all of that every day.
That's wonderful, Stacy. And I just want to generally open this up to in between each speaker, we would love to have a moment where we can just take a pause and ask questions of Stacy, or even interact with each other as we thoughtfully think about, what does it mean to use food to bring folks together? And Stacy, you've given us such a beautiful picture of that. Was there one person that in particularly like inspired you, or even sparked it with your family to bring it from Italy to our area, or as you expand in the area, is there someone who comes to mind?
Well, for myself, I would have to say my husband, because he's an immigrant from Italy, so he came here, and his background, definitely, like I said, it's, Italians are known for the hospitality and especially in Southern Italy. So I mean, he already had been working in a restaurant, not as a cook, but actually a pizza shop, but not as a cook. And, it was just something that we just had a passion for. And we both did it. He was in the back cooking. I was out front, with the servers or the bar, whichever, serving tables. I mean, so we've both done, like I've even had to help cook before, so it was just something that I guess as far maybe that's why, being in this business, we're married 20 almost 26 years now. So it's, and we've been in the business for almost 30. So yeah, so it's just been since we've been boyfriend and girlfriend going out that we've done this. So and just we've
Beautiful.
always, yes.
All right, let me open it up to our participants today, either via chat or if you want to come on live. Do you have any thoughts, ideas, questions that you would like to share as we've learned more about Stacy, her family, the community interactions, and just again, way you've mixed family, food, business, volunteerism. Does anybody have any thoughts to share?
Well, in chat, you're getting a lot of kudos for not only your volunteering within the community, but how you have involved your family in that process, and just very inspiring all over.
Well, thank you. I mean, it
Well,
definitely was hard when my children were really little because you would feel almost like you were, Gumby there, being pulled in every direction, but you just make it work. You have to make it work. And it does. You have good days, you have bad days, but they're mostly good days. So just like everything else in life, it's every job I think pulls everybody. And it's just at the end of the day, I'm happy because I met wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people. We've been involved in different things in our community. I used to sit and look in the paper and think, what I need to get involved in this, or how do I get involved in that? And I think that's another great thing about this, with the Women's Giving Circle as well, is that, sometimes people just don't even know how to be involved. Like they don't know how to get involved. And I think it's great that we do things like this to invite people to do that if they want to, if they wish to, or maybe they have some extra time to do it.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because we'll talk about a little bit at the end of just ways to get more involved or connected or just to hear about more because you're absolutely right. Building an awareness of what's happening right in our backyard. Timing's everything. So if you have time to get involved, experience, connect within our valley, we hope to be a liaison to some of that information and welcome you to join in our own activities. The other thing I would love to just give an extra kudos because I know you touched on it briefly, but you think about bettering the next generation and involving them, and I just love how Rocco and Isabella have been involved, and even I'll go a step further. Isabella is now interning with the chamber and just getting involved in our own local activities, and it's been so beautiful to see. So I just wanted to say that out loud to you, Stacy, that you have a beautiful family and it is now passing along to the next generation in such a wonderful way. I can't wait to see what you do with your new venture too.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes. And I also have them another way that they're also involved is Meals for Seals, or we volunteer down at the rec center in Selinsgrove where we do cooking classes with the younger kids.
Yeah.
So
Wonderful.
that's,
Well, that's good. You've done a wonderful job of sharing too of just some really great organizations that you've directly touched, but then also continue to touch others. The ripple effect is real here, where we're just so blessed to have so many great organizations right here.
we are.
Well,
I get a lot of positive feedback.
yes, I was gonna say all the kudos. I'm watching that come through. Any final thoughts for Stacy before we shift gears? Because I want to make sure that we have ample time to hear Amber's story that she plans to share with us. All right, I'm not seeing.
Overall, I think that based upon the comments here, people are really impressed and very inspired by your positive attitude and how you're giving back to the community while maintaining your entrepreneurship goals and experiences. It's very inspiring.
Well, thank you. Thank you again for everyone for having me. And again, I'm honored too to be sitting on a board with wonderful women. Like I said, if we need something, we're all there for one another. So that's another key thing for sure. And this community is wonderful to live and work in.
And there's one last question. Do you have Isabella Restaurant in Lewisburg or any plans to expand there?
No, the restaurant in Lewisburg is Elizabeth's, which
Okay.
they're very great people there as well. And we have a great relationship with them, and we actually send each other business if they have a booking overbooked that night or we're overbooked that night, so that's another thing in this business too. Not only in our home life or the work balance, we also have to have it with our other businesses, as far as being respectful and helping each other along in that way as well. That's what keeps it going.
Oh, that's so wonderful, and such a high note to wrap up on, of just to hear the connections and how you really are inspiring to all of us. Again, thank you for sharing, and with that, I think we should switch gears to allow Amber to tell her story, and then following that, we'll have a little bit more time for question and answer. And if we want to circle back, if you have a thought that comes to mind, whether about Stacy's story or about things that are happening in our valley or questions you might have generally for us, please, again, feel free to use the chat and we will circle back. But again, without further ado, I think I'm teeing you up beautifully. Amber comes to us from her business consultant role at SBDC, but I promise her story dives a little deeper into our topic area.
Sure. Thank you so much for the introduction, Bree. Thank you for inviting me. It's nice to virtually meet everyone. It's really funny because as I'm listening to Stacy, we serve on a board together. And so I've gotten to know her a little bit over the last year. And ironically, I too hail from the coal region. My husband also is an immigrant. He moved here from Mexico City in his early 20s and has been a citizen for, probably more years in the United States than he was in Mexico at this point. But it kind of also ties into my story a little bit. So as Stacy said, I grew up in central Pennsylvania. I'm from Shamokin, and grew up very much in a meat and potatoes, kind of Eastern European style of food. Things were pretty simple back then. And, when I left the area, went to college, and then I moved to Washington, D.C. metro region for a while. And back then I really I didn't have a lot of cultural experiences. My family, I came from a pretty humble background and we didn't take vacations. I wasn't on an airplane until I was probably 25 years old. And so I didn't have a lot of cultural experience at that time in my life. And I remember when I ended up in DC, that was sort of my first exposure to this. Just, it's such a melting pot and there are people from everywhere. And at that time, I fell in love with just all of the different sights and sounds and foods. And then I came back to the region and I was like, oh, but these things aren't here anymore. And at the time I had met someone, I had a guy that I had dated who was Egyptian. And so I sort of fell in love with Middle Eastern food. And I remember coming back, and at that time there used to be a little kind of like a Greek style deli in Bloomsburg that served falafel. And then they, transferred ownership. And so all these things that I kind of fell in love with in other places and through travels, I couldn't really find here as easily because, again, I think the food scene has changed dramatically even over the last decade. But, you go back 20, 25 years ago and there was not as much of that in the region. And so my husband and I ended up meeting in Lewisburg. I was working here at the time. I was a banker in another life, and I've always been a cook, certainly not professionally, but it was just from the time I was probably 4 years old, I was in the kitchen. And I think that, as Stacy mentioned, there's something about cooking for people that ties you to them, even somebody that you don't know. When you're sharing food, it's the experience of it and it's a way of caring for people. And I always really enjoyed that. And then, I'd kind of always had this idea that I really wanted a food business. I remember, much to my parents' dismay, I did go to college, but I remember being toward my end years and saying, wow, I kind of wish I had done culinary school instead of this. Like, I don't know that I'm really landing in the right place here. But be that as it may, I decided that I wanted to pursue a food business. And I really remember people having a lot of concerns for me because it's not an easy industry, number one. And number two, I really wanted to do different things. Like my family used to think that I was wild. Again, go back 20 years. I remember the first time I brought hummus to a party because you couldn't just go to the grocery store and buy it back then. And then I also remember like nieces and nephews and younger kids loving it. And so like having that experience of introducing new foods and along with it a little bit of culture because we live in a region where not everybody has the opportunity. Like I've been very blessed in my life. I was able to be educated. My parents did not have that same opportunity. And I was able to, through work and through life to do some traveling. And then, being the spouse of an immigrant. I mean, my husband's from Mexico City and that whole experience of really getting to know another culture in a different kind of a way. And I have really fallen in love with being able to share that with other people here. So, decided to get into the food business. I started out with a food truck and, kind of came into the catering side of things. And I did that for a number of years. I don't do it professionally any longer, but I do still, I do some catering and I do some charity events and things of that nature. But, back at that time when we were first starting to run the food truck, like I can remember doing like authentic Mexican tacos. And around here, it was very hard to find a soft corn tortilla. Like if you were getting a taco, it was a flour tortilla with chicken and shredded cheddar cheese and sour cream and olives. And like that almost does not exist. That version of a taco almost doesn't even exist in Mexico. And so I had that experience of like, number one, being with my husband who knew all the people and the places and going to Mexico City and having like a real taco from a taqueria. And it was really exciting to bring that here. And people doubted whether you could make it with that style of food here in central Pennsylvania. And we really found, I mean, other people fell in love with it. I see Kendi Alvarez on the line here, and she can attest that our pork al pastor has been like a sensation. I'm out of business for about 5 years now, and I still have people asking when I'm going to be cooking that again. And that's actually interesting because it's kind of a fusion food. It blends. I know, Kendi, please make it. I know, I promise, girl, I will. It's been a rough year. Um, but, and that was something that really blended. And it's interesting because even in Mexican cuisine, that's something that's cooked on a spit, like kind of a rotisserie, similar to what you would see for like gyros or something like that. And so that was actually a fusion. There was a Middle Eastern influence in Mexican cuisine. And it gave us an opportunity as well because my husband was never, he would help out some in the business. Like that was never really his jam, but he would also help. Sometimes we would sort of take the show on the road and do something special, and we would do these multi-course meals. And so then he would be able to also bring in the history of Mexican cuisine. And, you've got some really old culture in Central and South America. And so some of these dishes that were, they're hailing back to the Aztecs and the Mayans and some of those really traditional agricultural practices. So you're bringing in history and you're bringing culture and it's a really beautiful way because even if you don't have the opportunity to travel, I think that food is a way that we can really experience other places and get a feel for who they are and why they do things. I've fallen in love with Indian food. I remember in college, my roommate tried to take me to an Indian restaurant and I walked in, I was like, whoa, I don't think I can be like, it's too much. And I absolutely love it now. And I've developed this appreciation for the nuance of the way that they use spices in that culture. And I've learned to cook some of that food, partly because we couldn't get it as easily around here. So I'm really excited that, culturally, I think that our region has developed tremendously, at least during my lifetime. And I think that's really a beautiful thing. And I think food is a great way for us to sort of bridge that gap when we don't always understand another culture and perspective. And it hasn't all been sunshine and roses either. I think that sometimes it's hard for other cultures to find acceptance because we can be a little bit homogenous. But, it's even been an opportunity for me to teach others a little bit of cultural sensitivity and to, maybe even to embrace some of that myself. I'm always in a unique position because I am a white woman and people don't necessarily know that my husband's from Mexico. And I've had some really unusual situations over the years where people have said things that are pretty offensive, and very upsetting, not realizing who I am and where I come from. And so, I remember the first time that that happened, and I responded with I was so very angry. I responded in an angry kind of a way, and it didn't really help the situation. And I learned that I had to rethink the way that I handled that. And so it's also given me an opportunity to educate people. I had an incident where I had donated a Mexican dinner party for a charity auction. And when I showed up to deliver it, this group of women were, hooting and having a good time and drinking their margaritas. But also one woman was like very comically dressed up like a mariachi. She had a fake mustache on. And like for me and for my husband, that is hurtful and it's offensive. And I was kind of like, okay, I'm just not going to go there. And then the host, who, I mean, again, had had a few drinks, said to me, oh, we're all pretending to be Mexicans who crossed the border and we don't have our green cards. And I was so shocked in the moment and I was so much hurt by this. And I really couldn't respond to it, but I was able to have a conversation with her afterwards. And I was able to have it in an adult, slightly more relaxed way. And I think that she really learned something. I don't think she was intentionally trying to be hurtful, but it was that opportunity to educate someone that, that's really not okay. And I don't know if you've ever spent time in Mexico, but I have. And I know what poverty looks like there. And I understand what cartel violence has done to decimate culture and safety. I know what my family who lives there, what kind of conditions they go through. And I understand that it takes, it may not be legal, but it takes a lot of courage for someone to make that journey, to try to provide a better life, to try to sustain their family, to try to eat and be safe. And so it's given me those opportunities to kind of share some of that deeper culture through food, which kind of bridges some of the difficulties of having those conversations. And so I think that today, I'm able to take my own experience kind of coming up through a business like that, growing a business, exiting that business. And so now in my role, I work as a consultant and, help others, as they're going through that journey of entrepreneurship. And one thing that I really love about food and entrepreneurship is it gives people opportunities. If you're willing to work hard, anybody can, people can come to this country and build a business and build a life and be successful. And food has been that entry point for many immigrants into the workforce and into entrepreneurship. So I think that, embracing that diversity is really a special thing. And I'm excited to have been a little bit of a part of that in, here in the Susquehanna Valley. And, quite honestly, it's an honor to serve in the capacity that I do professionally because, running a business isn't always easy. And I think because of where I came from myself, I'm really cognizant of the fact that not everybody had the same benefit of an education that I did. Not everybody had the benefit of traveling, and not everybody has those advantages when it comes to getting started. And so it's really exciting, as much as we can talk about technology and is it good, is it bad? Do we love AI? Is it evil? There's a lot of things happening that are equalizing the playing field and making entrepreneurship accessible to more people, regardless of their educational and income backgrounds. And so, I think I think that's it's a neat thing. It's a way to bring people together. I've done a lot of weddings and I was thinking about, I will never forget there was a couple where the husband to be was Filipino and like he really wanted his mom's lumpia recipe. Well, I had never made a lumpia before. I'd never even tasted one, but we got mom's recipe and asked some questions and we were able to, to bring that piece of culture to their wedding, which was difficult for them to source here. And that was a a role that I served for so many years in the catering space when people wanted to be able to bring some of that little piece of home and culture into the experience. And so, um, yeah. And so, I still do, again, I do a lot of times when I cook now, it's for charity. I recently did a fundraiser for the Donald Heater Community Center in downtown Lewisburg, who they do a lot of support for working families and children who are at risk, to provide some good social constructs and some good citizenship and understanding how we interact and work with one another. And we did Mexican food for Cinco de Mayo, which is hysterical because totally not a Mexican holiday. If anybody was ever wondering, Mexicans do not celebrate Cinco de Mayo in that way. It's totally a US thing. But it means tacos and margaritas, so I can get on board with that as well. But when we did that, we tried to kind of come in with some different price points and bring in some authentic salsas that people aren't used to having here. And we had an activity where families could make their own tortillas. And so I think that even just as Stacy talked so much about how she's brought family together through food and cooking, and so I think that's something that, in my own way, I hope that I contribute to the region. And I think I've talked enough now. I think that was a good solid 10 minutes there.
Amber, as someone who has enjoyed your cuisine, you have absolutely brought to our community and widened the cultural impact of just how food can play that role, and your wisdom around entrepreneurship. But I have to tell you, I'm still stuck on thank you so much for sharing your personal stories along the way, as we've been listening, because both you and Stacy, I hope others are feeling this too, have been so relatable. And the neat thing about food is it is comforting. And so even hearing your challenges, your wins along the way on both fronts, it really helps to show how food can cross those divides and help bring folks together and overcome the challenges, and educate. I really loved that you turned a moment into a chance to broaden perspectives for everybody involved. So thank you for that. But I jumped in right away, and I know Ellen wants to jump in too with a few comments that we're seeing in the chat.
Well, yeah, just to reiterate, that's a number of different people had also said that they appreciated your sharing your story, and also agree with you that whole diversity, that ethnic diversity of food choices is a real benefit to the economic development of a region. But you also have to be careful. I wouldn't give out your address unless you expect about 90% of the people on here to be coming over. They're ready for a party and to have you cook for them.
If you contribute to a local charity, I could probably be convinced to do that.
Woo!
I love it.
I'm all about, and I love the fact, I love the fact that it's something that I can do. I don't always have the ability to write out a large check to an organization, but I have always had the ability to fundraise in that way. And so that's been a really special thing as well. And I would, for a good cause, I'd be willing to crank out some al pastor for everyone.
Well, and I'm gonna me too. I'm going to put somebody on the hot seat here just a little bit, but Linda Brown, our chair of the Women's Giving Circle steering committee, regularly, just out of acts of kindness, it makes beautiful baked goods that she shares with her employees, friends, families, and charities as well. And so as both you and Stacy were talking, and just those moments of using food to just connect again, and uplift somebody else, that came to mind. And so I've been watching Linda's take of all of this, and I have to say the three of you on this call are who I would think of to say, oh, if anybody's going to bring us around or together around food, it really is the three of you. So I do want to give the shout out, and even if you wanted to speak to that for a moment, Linda, of what that's meant to you in connecting, really glad to have you on to share your perspective.
Oh, Bree, thanks. And thanks to Amber and Stacy. I think there's just something about food that connects people. So one of my little side hobbies to help the nonprofits that I support is, just doing a mini bake sale. I see a couple of my coworkers on the line today, and First of all, I think that some people don't really make homemade things anymore. So when you do, people are so surprised, and they go really fast. But it is wonderful to share something, that you're passionate about. I love to cook and bake as well, and I like to try new things. If somebody has a favorite that I haven't made before for a birthday or something, it's just nice to say, well, maybe it didn't come out quite right. It might not be like your mom's, but I'm willing to give it a try. And again, I think you make that personal connection with people, as well as the enjoyment that you get out of them enjoying good homemade food. So lots of things in common, ladies. So thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, thank you to Stacy and Amber. I think the stories that you shared just made us appreciate and kind of go back to this, and having us each think individually a little bit more. And I was just walking with a dear friend the other night, and we were talking about, you know, memories of growing up and what your grandmother made or what you had around the family table, and how much things have really changed in some ways. But just appreciate you sharing your true experiences. And this was a great topic, a little different for some to focus on, but it's really been great. Thank you.
Does anybody have any further thoughts or questions? Because if not, we do have a little bit more to share, and I will try to carve out a little time at the end to circle back, but don't want to run away too fast from all the great thoughts being presented. Anybody else? Final things? Again, thank you so much, and let me transition us here just to our next topic area is we have Kendi Alvarez, the mayor of Lewisburg, on today to talk about an upcoming international festival, but more importantly, how activities like this do continue that community building that we've been talking about. So let's open it up to Kendi, and you can share more details for us.
Thanks, Bree. So very excited to announce that we have been working on what we'd like to consider is the inaugural international festival that will happen on September 21st. It is during Family Weekend for Bucknell, and that is intentional because many of our international students don't have families that can return to the area for that weekend to show them the love and support, like students who are, from the mainland of the US. And so we would like to wrap them up in our love, and in doing that, have an international festival where they're going to be they're going to have an opportunity to share more about their culture in a variety of ways. There will be student performances, but there are also going to be student activities that will happen in Hufnagel Park, where we're partnering students, individual students or student organizations, alongside our community-based organizations. So things like the Community Zone, the Donald Heater Community Center, the Children's Museum is doing their Passport to the World program during that day, where you can get like these little passports and get them stamped as you learn about different cultures and countries. And so we're asking the community to come out and support. It starts at 10 a.m. and it goes until 3 p.m. It actually starts on campus behind Vetter Hall, which is just south of St. George Street. And then we're closing down 6th Street because there'll be a parade of flags where the students will come bearing the flags of their country down through 6th Street and then end up in Hufnagel Park. And we'll be in Hufnagel Park from about noon to 3. We've got some food trucks lined up, so you'll have opportunities to sample some local businesses that have some ethnic foods, and just really excited to see how this all comes together. In the spring of every year, Susquehanna University works on an international festival as well. And so what we're looking to do is have ours in the fall, theirs in the spring, and just keep this influx going, where we're continuing to highlight the very rich culture that exists in our community, while offering students an opportunity to, see that they're not alone here, even though, the diversity that exists is not necessarily as out there and visually public as it should be.
That's wonderful, Kenny. I know I'm really excited to see how this further develops because I think that the students themselves offer so much to our valley, and anywhere where we can roll out the welcome wagon and really make them feel that level of comfort. But then they have a lot to teach us, just as they're learning, we're learning from them, and maybe we help them fall in love with our rich and diverse communities here, and we keep them, as from a
Yes.
community building and economic development standpoint. There are so many wins,
Yes.
so many levels of this.
Yep. And we've got more and more, pockets of diversity that come in through our various employment. WellSpan Evan has a cadre of Filipino nurses that are here. And how do we better integrate people into the community? One of the easiest ways is, a lot of these festivals and fairs and these weekend activities that we hold in our downtowns, making sure that they're welcoming, creating these spaces for them to see themselves being involved in the community means that they gain an attachment in this community and then likely would want to look to stay.
I agree. So we do have up on the screen here for those that are participating, maybe watching later, or if you, again, you have these ahas along the way, we do want to make sure we put the ask out for if you're aware of an event, whether it's, very visible or maybe it's invisible and needs an uplift in our valley that is helping to pull folks together. And it can be a full-blown festival like this, or I don't know about all of you, but I have my husband's family is Polish, and I absolutely love the pierogies out of the Shamokin area. So like there are these little pockets of opportunity to come around food, culture, and this experience level that we'd love to hear of different opportunities maybe coming up in the near future or contemplated. Maybe there are ways that we can help wrap around and make sure they have what they need to really be able to be successful in the community. So if you have any ideas like that, that is what the question's for is, throw it in the chat or feel free to speak out or follow up with us. We'd love to hear more. These are important parts of how we bring folks together, as we've heard today. And any thoughts or questions along those lines? I know we've been learning so much today. I'm watching facial expressions and nodding, and just the chat discussion has been wonderful. Anything to add to the mix? Ellen, you're the chat monitor.
Right,
Anything?
I'm checking the chat. Not quite directly to your question, but
Sure.
there are first of all, Amber, some people do know where your address, so be careful. They may be camping out in front of your lawn. At least that's the threat. Linda did share a book that she's been starting to read called Our Migrant Souls on the Myths of the Latino Culture by Hector Tobar. And she's just beginning it, but she's been very surprised about what she didn't know. So she recommends that. And I think that after this conversation, Stacy's comment, I think is pretty reflective of how we may all be feeling, is that we're very fortunate to live in a country where we have, it just moved, so sorry, live in a country where we have the opportunity to share the best of every culture and come together as one. And that's a pretty powerful statement right there.
Okay.
Someone asked, Linda Nahart asked if there was one resource which lists events in the area. And as far as I know, we have, well, nope, response by Kendi is the Visitors Bureau website is typically the best.
Okay.
And I know she hopped off. Colleen Bowman is also one of our committee members and Women's Giving Circle members. And she has a website developed, Susquehanna Kids. that does round up quite a bit of information about different events, opportunities, topic areas. And I know that she's looking to weave in this into the mix too. So definitely check out susquehannakids.com when you have a chance. I think you'll find it to be a wealth of information. And I know that she's also, her and her team are open to more ways of just continuing to build it up to be that resource. So hopefully that would be another one to mix in. Great questions and comments, and well said, Stacy. Couldn't say it better. Well, watching and again being mindful of time, I am going to begin to wrap us up here today, and I would miss the opportunity to put the shameless plug in. So I'm going to jump to our Women's Giving Circle and say, you know, again, our goal is to help empower, connect, and inspire. And I think that we can all agree today. We've heard wonderful stories and heard of opportunities of how we can do that as participants on this call, members of Women's Giving Circle, members of our community as we make our impact. So I do want to say that beyond the festivals and activities we've talked about, Women's Giving Circle has some coming up that you should definitely have on your calendar. First and foremost, we have our lucky last one. It's a lottery board fundraiser, a lot of fun. We sell only 100 tickets, and so it's the opportunity to try to stay in the mix and be one of 3 lucky winners at the end that take home the prizes. But don't worry, there's lots of prizes along the way, lots of fun, raffles and baskets. So please put that on your calendar. We also want to, you know, put the shout out there that we do have our next On the Bright Side scheduled for November 14th. It will be virtual again, just like this. And we're very open to ideas of topics, whether it's for November or beyond. We want to make sure that we're pulling through, you know, ideas and things that you would like to hear about, discuss, you know, just have a moment to reflect on. So please put those out to us either today or continue in contact. We'd love to stay connected with you. And if you learn of ways that we can help to empower, inspire through those connections, that's what we're here for. We want to wrap around our community. Well, let me just, sorry, I have been fighting technology here a little bit today, so bear with me. But we do have QR codes for each of these activities. And I want to draw your attention to, if you have not already signed up to be a 2025 member, please go to the website or use the QR code to get there to look into how you could be involved in our Women's Giving Circle. It's just a wonderful group of folks trying to do all we can to uplift women and children and those that are helping women and children throughout our valley. By signing up to be a member for 2025, it also allows you to participate in our funding process. By being a member, you're able to nominate organizations that are fulfilling the mission, and then you participate in a voting process to award grants at the end of the fiscal year. So it would be next summer. So please get involved, and there are various ways you can be as little or as much involved as you'd like. We'll connect you in whatever is the best fit for your time and place now. So again, please check out more details on there if you are interested. And finally, we are looking for members of our steering committee. We have some on board here today. Behind the scenes, there is a very strong group that's come together. I'm one of the founding steering members, and I can't say enough accolades towards this group over the years. It's just been such a wonderful experience to be part of the uplift of ideas and support and ways to really engage, not just with memberships, but then the community we're serving. So if you have interest in learning more about that and you're thinking, well, it would be great to step up to that leadership level, please consider reaching out. And we do have a few openings on the steering committee, and applications are due by August 30th. So again, please reach out on those. I sped through some of those updates because I did want to make sure that I could circle back here at the end and say, as we have, you know, experienced today's speakers, discussed, shared, and come together over this lunch hour, just wanted to make sure I opened it up one more time to say, are there any final thoughts or, you know, words of encouragement as we go back to our busy lives and days. Anybody want to share out at this point in our conversation?
Bree, I just wanted to say real quick before we end here, again, thank you so
Sure.
much for having me. But also, just like today, we're at work or whatever it is that we're doing today. Like I said, I was moving my daughter into school this morning. You know, some of them are at work in the restaurant. We're doing this now around the table, talking about our day. See, that's just every day. That's how it goes. It's just,
Mhm.
you can fit it all in and we're all doing it together for sure.
Beautifully said, and you're absolutely right. And that's a part of, what we need is to come together, lean on each other, sometimes share tips, tricks, even just commiserate or relate. I think it's so very important, and I'm so excited that we could come together today. I hope you will consider coming again to our next one. That's November 14th at noon. Please put on your calendars, and there will be more information coming regarding that event. And then with that, I'm going to stop share and bring us back to a gallery view because it's wonderful to round up and Zoom with you. And I've really enjoyed all of this myself. And I can't say thank you enough to Stacy and Amber, told Linda and Kendi for sharing out today, and all of you for participating. Thank you so much for joining us for On the Bright Side. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.